linen scarf doing garages obsequies where he checked their depths in that Mormon's dames, bequesting an ancestral hop, step, and a deep end with his bursts in their toil and moil.
Debths begins with an epigraph from Bing Crosby's Little Sir Echo.
Little Sir Echo, how do you do? Hello, hello. Little Sir Echo, I'm very blue.
Going back.
Hello.
While the quote is attributed to Bing Crosby and the Music Maids, it was adapted from a version recorded by Joe and Adele Marsala in 1936. The Marsalas, in turn, had added a verse and created a new arrangement of the original version, with music by John Sylvester Fearis and Laura Roundtree Smith. Authorial echoes abound. Perhaps these echoic hailings call out to the song's many authors. Debths is characterized by such echoic authorial plenty. In fact, it might even be alluding to Emily Dickinson's last letter, which read simply, "Little cousins called back, Emily." Debths is a book about death.
I saw the death, the tree of knowledge.
But it is a death which speaks and reverberates and seems to echo forever. Only artworks are capable of transmitting phonic echo signals. We read later in the book, "I am here to slay the dragon with the ready-made name of an earlier Susan." Diving deeply into Debths occasionally feels like becoming a detective in a watery noir that is also a dissolving fairy tale. But what are we getting to the bottom of? And how deep are its depths? The work feels littered with clues, the work of a knowing hand, but it also feels like the tracing of something more ineffable. But it is a death. These sliced and sluiced collages resist linear interpretations while not eschewing them altogether, forcing our eye to reconsider and reorient its behavior when confronted with language. Perhaps prior to reading the words, we first read the shape. All at once we register numbers, letters, groups, lines of flight, and motion. Similar to the way Howe describes the narrator of Chris Marker's La Jetée, our eye becomes omnidirectional. This poem, for example, seesaws and cantilevers, cuts and slices to produce the effect of something spinning, wrapped, distressed, torn. We recognize the fact that this shape reflects over both its horizontal and vertical axes. We notice, no matter our language disposition, first and foremost, a visual rhythmic totality. But what extends to your eye also extends to your mind, and the extent to which you will allow yourself to enjoy these poems is the extent to which you will have abandoned normative reading behavior. The reader of Debths is plunged into a net-like vortex of history, simultaneously past and present, modernist and postmodernist, poetry, prose, myth, sound, and visual image. Debths is composed of 5 sections. Forward. Titian Airvent. Tom, Tit, Tot. Periscope. And Debths. I'd like to trace a thread through the book, revolving around the persistent idea of a shape. It is only one line of endlessly cascading lines that reveal themselves upon unspooling the book. Debths is at once tightly wound and always threatening to unwind. Diving into Debths requires that the reader slow down and take an approach to reading that vacillates between ambient experience and active engagement. Reading becomes listening, tracing, and then an investigation. There are several important reference points for the reader of Debths. One is the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. It houses a strange and wonderful collection of art, artifacts, and materials gathered by the eccentric 19th century art collector, Isabella Stewart Gardner. Howe refers to her as something of a proto-installation artist. Like Howe, Gardner amasses a collection of references. This spirit of careful curation and relation adheres Debths together. Another important touchstone is Diver, artist Paul Tech's 2000 retrospective at the Whitney Museum of Art. The paintings shown here resonate with Debths' orientation toward death and water. These paintings were the last painted by Tech, who died prematurely in 1988, a victim of the AIDS crisis. Even in the face of death, these paintings find Tech in a joyous and contemplative palette of blues, meditating on God, the ephemeral, butterflies, and time. Tech's work scrawls and constructs, just barely holding together what seems too fragile or immortal to maintain. Death for Tech, and perhaps for Howe as well, lurks through life as a sort of shadow double. This is his work Tomb, a full-body cast of his likeness but rendered to be dead, inert but with a strange irreverence at the fact.
Sad, sad tears.
You frightened me.
You must not cry. It makes me sad. I hate to be sad.
Who are you?
The question is, who are you?
The English folktale Tom Tit Tot is crucial for Debths. Like Rumpelstiltskin, a little forest monster, Tom Tit Tot strikes a deal with a princess under duress. The princess has been married to a king under the condition promised by her mother that she can spin 5 skeins of yarn a month. Otherwise, she'll be decapitated. Such a violent conspiracy doesn't improve much when Tom Tit Tot visits her in the dead of night to strike his deal. An expert spinner, he will complete the task she cannot and spin the yarn for her. For pay, he will grant the princess 3 chances to guess his name. If she cannot, he will take possession of her. But Howe's version of Tom Tit Tot is not this one. Howe's brazen collages offer a trans-historical riposte to the story's conventional misogyny. We might suggest that Howe's poems unwrite the narrative. In place of a passive woman subjugated to the whims of powerful men, Howe's poems offer virtuosic and cryptically astonishing tapestries that defy in every way such reductive storytelling. The writer of these poems and collages has no need of the monster's deal nor the king's protection. The poet spins away on her own, but not alone. The only debt she accrues is the unpayable kind, gifted from artist to artist and poet to poet, transmitted across time and space through art. This is a bad debt that can never be made good, and therein lies its power. Another essential node in Howe's network is the poetry of William Butler Yeats, and this pertains to the conical vortex I've been loosely tracing through the figure of the spindle. Yeats's dualistic universe imagines 2 mystical intersecting cones, one representing the heavens and one the earth. Their constant imbrication generates the world, but it is a world falling apart. As the gyre disintegrates, a new cone starts in a reverse direction. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Howe writes at the end of her foreword, "Sometimes I think of Debths and Tom Tit Tot as collaged essays on the last poems of William Butler Yeats, the poet I loved first." New Poems was the last collection published in Yeats's lifetime. I enjoy facsimile editions such as the Cornell New Poems manuscript materials of poets whose manuscripts have a strong visual component. What interests me most isn't the photographs of the handwritten originals on the even-numbered side, but the facing typographical transcription on the odd. These doggedly quixotic efforts at conversion are a declaration of faith. The textual scholar hopes through successive processes of revision to draw out something that resists articulated shuffling. Secret connections among artifacts are audible and visible, and yet hidden until you take a leap. Overwriting signified by a vertical brace. Superimposed letters with others underneath. Sometimes empty brackets signify a tear or a worn place. It's the mystery of strong music in the soul. Our eyes see what is outside in the landscape in the form of words on paper. but inside, a slash or mark wells up from a deeper place where music before counting hails from. A feature of Howe's visual poems are that they are opaque but visible through the recto-verso side. A dissolving technique like this dramatizes and makes this uniquely visible. We can notice a few things. The poems tend to gather toward the center, leaving large frames of white space. We can see the way the textual space is spread, compressed, and travels from page to page. We notice especially the third to last image seems to leap to the page's edge, as if it might escape. The last three images seem to suggest a dissolving and opening from a more rectangular shape to a more angular shape, to a dissolving, opening shape, quiet and disappearing. Dualisms would strike any reader of Howe as especially suspicious. She notes in My Emily Dickinson, Pythagoras wrote that all things are divisible into two genres, good and evil. In the genus of evil, he classified darkness, females. Just preceding this quote, Howe writes that abstraction of the particular from the universal is the entrance into evil. No stranger to abstraction, Howe recognizes that the poet herself works within and with abstraction. Evil is inescapable. She writes, knowledge, no matter how I get it, involves exclusion and repression. The more utopian hope of poetry is to charge language, image, and sound with effective, proliferating, polymorphous resonances that hypostatize the wrenching of the abstract from the universal.